Well, thank you so much, Chad, for being here and for letting us have the chance to interview you. Chad, thank you so much for participating in our 2024 WhistleStop candidate meet and greet. Um, by purchasing a video interview, you have allowed our chamber to educate our citizens in Polk County about the upcoming election and the issues that um, we're facing, and let us get to know the candidates on the ballot. So we sincerely thank you. Since your campaign has purchased this interview, the Florida Division of Elections does require you to disclose that fact with the following statement.
Sure. This is a political advertisement paid for by me, Chad Davis, Republican for Florida House District 48.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chad. So first, as we get into the interview, will you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. And thank you for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity. I've been involved with the Winter Haven Chamber now for quite some time, and I enjoy being in the leadership class 43 with you. So it's a real pleasure to be here to be able to speak to our members. I grew up here in Winter Haven. I'm a fourth generation citizen of Winter Haven, native of Winter Haven. My great-grandfather moved our family to Winter Haven back in the 1920s, all the way from Auburndale. We've been here for quite some time. My dad was born and raised here. I'm born and raised here. So Winter Haven is home. It's a very special place. And, my dad was a public servant here. He served on the city commission back in the 1970s. He was mayor in 1978, and then he served as a judge for the 10th Circuit and the 2nd District Court of Appeal covering Polk County for his entire career. So I kind of grew up in watching what a life of public service looks like. There are a few families here in Winter Haven. When you think of their names, you just think that, they love this community and they want to give back and make it as best as they can. And, I kind of look at my dad as part of that generation, and I'm happy to now be involved as much as I am, which is why I'm running for this seat. And we'll talk a little bit more about that going forward. But a little bit more about me. As I said, from here, but I went to Winter Haven High School, graduated class of 2000. I was very involved with music at the time. I was in the marching band and the drum major. And then I went off to college in Nashville, Tennessee, a small church school called Trevecca Nazarene University. And then after that, I went to Pepperdine University for law school. I also got my master's in public policy. I really got interested in studying policy, studying the intersection between economics and the law and politics, getting a good foundation in our constitutional founding as a country and some of the philosophy and with that. So I knew coming out of that, I was going to do something related to public policy. Didn't quite know what, figured it would either take me to Washington, D.C. or to Tallahassee. And having done a couple internships in Washington, D.C., I worked for Senator Sam Brownback when he was in the Senate at the time. Now, then he went on to Kansas to become the governor. And then I also worked for the National Right to Life as a law clerk right out of law school. D.C. is an interesting place. I decided real quick I did not want to move to DC. I did not want to work in DC. I think it's very dysfunctional, and it's a very tough place to do a lot of good. In fact, I think that's part of the problem with our politics now. Everybody gets very frustrated with what's happening there. So I turned my eyes towards the state and how I could get involved in public policy here in Florida. And as it turns out, our then Senator Kelly Stargel, who represents this area, really she represented more of Lakeland at the time. She was looking for legislative aid, and I was looking for a job. So it's kind of aligned, and she liked my resume, especially my legal background and what I could bring to her office. But they just redrew the district, so she had more of Winter Haven. So she liked the idea that I had the connection to the east part of the county. As we all know, there is a little bit of a divide there, and I was able to really get involved in her office with the Winter Haven side of her district. So I served for 8 years as her senior legislative aide. My main responsibility was policy. I handled all of her bills. I also helped her with her committee bills. She all the legislators are very different up in Tallahassee. Some of them go into meetings cold. They haven't really looked much at the bills or the agenda. They just kind of listen to what the public has to say. But she was really, as I would call her, she was really hot. She would read and study. She had questions. She took lots of meetings with different groups that represented different interests when it came to those bills. So she had a good understanding going into each committee exactly what she was voting on. And she relied on me to provide a lot of the legal backing on that. So I got a real good understanding of the process and how legislation is written and how it moves through the process, working on those bills. And then anything she filed, her own the bills that she sponsored were also under my purview. So I worked with all of those. And then she became the appropriations chair. And while she's appropriations chair, she didn't do quite as many policy bills. So then I got really involved with some of the appropriations side of things. And so it's really got a good overview of all of that. So when I was done with that job, when she term limited, I decided I wanted to stay more local, and a job opened up at the Polk County Public Schools. Superintendent Hyde was looking for someone who could come in and help the school district with all of the changes coming from the legislature, make sure that we are in compliance and that we are following state law, and that we are here to work with our legislature, our Department of Education, rather than, I think there was an era where we might have been more of a challenging some of the things coming, and that doesn't always work out so well. So I've been doing that now for the last year and a half. I really enjoy it. I'm very proud of some of the things going on in our schools. We definitely have a lot of challenges we're working on, but I think the data is going to show that we've made some significant improvements, especially over the last year, but the last couple of years. And I really enjoy my job there. So that's kind of where I've come from, where I'm at now. And as we get talking a little bit more, I'll explain more of why I'm running and what I hope to accomplish.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Chad. All right. So what is the biggest opportunity for your district in this next legislative session?
So I think the biggest opportunity we have, there's no question, it's the growth that we're experiencing. We all know, we hear the statistics about how we're, the fastest growing metropolitan area in I think the country, the state, whatever the latest statistic is. We just know that we're growing very fast. And so there are some definite infrastructure needs when it comes to roads, public safety, schools, things like that. Obviously, that also ties in our natural resources and water. And so really a focus on our district and making sure that we are meeting the needs that come with the growth. Development is a very complex issue. We're balancing private property rights. We're taking a look at how we can manage that in a way that's sustainable and makes sense. At the same time, there's a connection between what's going on locally and what's going on at the state level that needs to you need to have someone who understands both and able to bridge that gap. I would say, I'm very pleased with the direction we're headed here in Winter Haven. I have a high amount of respect for our city commission and our city management, our professional staff. I do think that they are headed in the right direction. You don't see that across the state, and with that comes some tension between the state and the local governments. We hear it everywhere we go at our events here at the chamber regarding, the home rule discussion and the state preempting the local municipalities from being able to do what they need to do in order to manage that tension. Which, by the way, a little bit about my views on that. I think I understand where we're coming from with home rule. I have a little bit of a different take. Home rule is a concept. It's often equated with federalism, which federalism is a legal structure. I hear the talking point, we don't like DC telling Florida what to do, so therefore the cities don't like the state telling them what to do. Well, it's a little different. Federalism as a legal structure, the states pre-existed the federal government. The colonies turned into states, and then they created a union. They gave up some of their power, but they maintained their sovereignty. It's a little different because cities, counties, public school districts, special districts, those are all creatures of the state. So there is a responsibility that the state has with our local government. But that doesn't mean that the state should try to do a top-down management of local government. It just doesn't work that way. I believe in a principle called subsidiarity. That's a little policy wonkish. It comes from the 19th century Catholic social teaching. But basically, subsidiarity means that anything that can be done at the most local level should be done at the most local level. And one way I can explain that, if you look at, the family, things that a family can do, the family should do. Where the family needs help and support, that's when you look to the greater community, and then the greater community looks to their local government and so forth up each level of the sphere. So I do think that our city is very responsive to the voters. They are very responsive to the needs of the local community, and that is important and that must be respected. And I hope to be a partner with them from the state level to provide the help and support they need from the state level without overstepping their ability to do what they need to do. And I do think that there are definitely some preemptions that have been done in the past few years that we need to roll back and reconsider. And I hope to be able to do that and to help them with that so we can keep moving in the direction that we're going.
Awesome. Thanks so much. All right. So what are your top 2 or 3 priorities if elected?
Well, so I have a few areas of interest. Now that I work in education, I really am interested in trying to help make education better, especially public education. But I'm really I'm a big supporter of all of the above, all school options. I actually do sit on the board of a private school that I helped found. Me and my friends, we formed a new school in Orlando called the Chesterton Academy of Orlando. It's a classical Catholic high school. And so we really benefit from the Family Empowerment Scholarship. I see families who could never afford to go to private school that now are taking advantage of that opportunity. So I really do love what the state has done regarding school choice. That being said, I know that the public education option is going to still be the majority option, and so it needs to be the best that it can be. I do see some improvements coming in public education through accountability measures, but I also think that school districts and school boards are stepping up to the plate and trying to to really think outside of the box, be more innovative in providing support structures and seeing those learning gains. And so I want to be able to empower them more. We do have more of a market system now, so that competition I think will provide a level of accountability that might not have been there before. So I'd like to work more in education in general, but I also like to be, maybe bridge a gap there between public education and the majority in the legislature that maybe they don't always understand how the laws impact the local districts. A couple other areas of interest, as I talked a little bit about my background, my dad being a judge, I really grew up watching the judiciary and that third branch of government and some of the needs that they have. Every year working in Tallahassee, I'd hear from Brian Haas and Rex Stimmig and the needs that they have in their departments, just trying to fill vacancies with the state attorney and the public defender. But you go beyond that, you have the regional councils, you have our prison workers, probation officers, all of that side of things. The vacancies are staggering, and they just can't keep them filled with good people because they're just not paid enough to make a living. And I think that's a legitimate form of government or a purpose of government. I think the government has a duty to provide a quality system that would be able to protect people's rights and also to seek justice. And the only way to do that is to make sure that those vacancies are filled with people who want to do that job and want to do it well. So I don't know how to solve that problem, but I'd like to see if we can find a way to raise those salaries and benefits and find incentives to be able to fill those gaps and then to keep those people, and then to find a way where we can keep that up every year without having to revisit it every year. I think that would be a big improvement on that side of that branch of government. So that's an area of interest of mine. And then in general, every year we don't know what's going to come. Right now, I think our biggest struggle, we're still recovering from some of the hurricanes that have taken a huge hit on our property insurance. That coupled along with, we found some real issues with our tort system, our civil justice system. So we've done some tort reform. We're seeing some improvements. We've actually started to see some rates come down quicker than we thought they would. They're not coming down as much as they need to, but we tried to stabilize that off. I say we. I'm no longer working there, but I was working on those issues when I was up there. We are seeing a lot of improvements there, but it still isn't. I don't think the consumers are feeling it yet. And so we got to take a look at that and see what we can do to try to, to keep us competitive and keep people here in Florida and coming to Florida. So those are just, I think that's three issues, but those are some areas of interest of mine that I'd like to work on.
Great. Thank you. So what do you consider the biggest challenge for the position that you're running for?
I think the biggest challenge with this position is understanding exactly what it is. This is a job. This is a job. It entails a lot of work. It's not easy. You have to understand a little bit of everything that's going on in all these areas. You have to be able to, read the bills and understand how they're going to interplay with other laws. You have to be able to listen to people. You have to be able to work with people and build those relationships. I think that can be a challenge as well. I think our politics have gotten way too how should I say, a little too dogmatic, where the partisan nature of politics has gotten to where, people are demanding that you ascribe to certain beliefs or you're a heretic. And, as a result, a lot of people, they get a little worried about making decisions because they're trying to, you know, stay true to some ideal that really doesn't play in the majority of the bills that are heard up in Tallahassee. So I think understanding the job is the biggest challenge, and then being able to put in the effort and the work. It's not a part-time job. No matter what they say, no matter how little they pay, it's not a part-time job. It requires a full effort. And I think that's what we need to have a truly effective representative for our part of the state.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And finally, why should voters choose you over other candidates?
Well, I think my appeal to voters is they're looking for someone they can trust who will both do the work and represent them and what they believe is our way of living, our values and principles. So that's what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to earn that public trust. I am finding that having roots in the community is very helpful. I've been knocking on doors since January. I know how to do a good ground game. And what I find is I'm finding these connections, the 2 or 3 degrees of separation from my own family. I'm meeting people who went to school with my dad. I'm meeting people who knew, my grandfather, and that's really neat. And so once I make those connections, then it's just trying to convince folks that, I understand what makes this place truly special. I understand why people are moving here to Polk County. They're moving here in droves, and yet we still have a 50-year crime low, as our sheriff likes to point out. We have something good going on here, especially and we look in Winter Haven and all the things that are happening are the public and private areas, the development going on, the improvement in our lifestyle. There's so much here that's working well, and I think the extra piece that we need is to make sure we have that partner in Tallahassee who can help with the state side of things. And I think my experience and my background gives me the skills and the knowledge and the relationships, which are very, very important to do the job well. And so that's why I'm making the case. I think we all bring something a little bit different to the table. My opponents in a primary, especially, we probably all agree on the issues and on the philosophy. Now it's just a matter of who's going to do the job the best. And I'm just making the case that with my experience, and I'm going in ready to start working day one. It's not going to be a learning curve for me. There will be things I will be learning. Of course, it is very different when you're a member versus a staff. But I do think I go in with that advantage that would help me to really be effective for us.
Thank you so much, Chad. And that's all the questions I have for you, but thank you for allowing us to sit down, ask you these things, get to know you a little bit so that we can better educate our community. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you for doing this. I think this is very important. I do hope my opponents take advantage of it. I hope folks watch this and really get a good chance to learn about us. And you can reach me at www.votechaddavis.com. There is an opportunity there for you to leave an email that comes directly to me, and I hope to meet everyone and to earn your vote.
Thank you so much. And don't forget, you can also meet Chad at our WhistleStop candidate meet and greet on July 18th, Thursday at the Winter Haven Chamber.